Hello, I'm Sally Pointer. Now, anyone who's ever met me will tell you that my normal style of hairdressing is drag through a hedge backwards. But that doesn't mean that I don't like some nice potions to use on my hair. And one of the things I do like to use, particularly in the winter, is a herbal hair vinegar. It's got lots of things in it that stop my very dry hair turning out scratchy and itchy, and it smells nice, and it's another excuse to go and bother some hedges. Well, you can tell summer's progressing at pace. The very first blackberries are almost ready, not quite, but that's not what I'm here for today. I've actually come out for nettle. Now, the stinging nettle is familiar to most people, and at this time of year when it's flowering and starting to set seed, it's past its best for eating and for teas, but it's absolutely perfect for including in things like hair rinses. The plant's got all sorts of interesting trace minerals and elements in it, and for centuries it's been recognised as a really good hair tonic. So I'm going to pick some of these tops. So if you handle them gently, you don't tend to get stung, but wear gloves if you prefer. And I want a good handful of these flowering and seeding tops to go into my hair rinse. And growing right next to my nettles is this little patch of chamomile. Now, the petals are still folded back. It's very early in the morning. They tend to open up as the sun hits them. But chamomile is another really, really nice one to use in hair potions. It's got a lovely appley scent. It's exactly the same thing that you use in chamomile tea. So if you haven't got any growing locally, chamomile tea bag will do just the same thing in your mixture. And it's very, very soothing. If you're picking chamomile in the wild and you're not 100% sure whether you've got it or one of the other related varieties, if you split one in half, can you see how the very, very centre of the flower head has a little hollow space? Well, chamomile has that, pineapple weed doesn't. So that's quite a good way of just checking to see whether you've got the right thing. But to be honest, none of this particular family are going to be a problem if you put them into your hair rinse. So if it smells nice, smells like chamomile, that's good. It's a low growing plant, so just check it's not from a place that's going to be watered by dogs. This patch should be fine, so I'll pick a bit to go into my hair rinse. Now, one of the biggest ingredients in my hair rinse is rosemary. Now, the nice thing about this rinse is pretty much everything is easy to identify. And rosemary has the most beautiful, bracing scent. So, several sprigs of this. We want a good handful of pretty much everything that we're using. Rosemary's full of essential oils. It's very nice on itchy scalps. And it's quite balancing. Even though my hair's very dry, people with oily or combination or normal hair, everybody finds rosemary is really, really nice in a hair rinse. We're going to want quite a bit of that. And the final ingredient in my herbal hair rinse is lavender. Again, incredibly easy to identify. Now, the best time to pick lavender is after the dew is lifted, before the sun's on it. At that point, it's absolutely full of essential oils, and you can see the bee there harvesting pollen from it. Now, if you identify as male, you might want to go easy on the lavender. There are some studies that suggest that it supports the more feminine aspects. So, you've got to do a little bit of research sometimes if you think any particular ingredient might not suit you. But in my case, lavender is absolutely great, really soothing, really fragrant. I'm really fond of it, so lots and lots of lavender. I'm just going to clip it off about there, and I'll take a good bundle in to make my rinse with. One really big handful of each, and as I mentioned earlier, if you can't find an ingredient or you prefer not to use one for your particular needs, substitute something else. This is a hair rinse, you're not taking it internally. Just be sure you know your ingredients and you'll end up with something really delicious. You might add a few rose petals, for example, or a few marigold petals. Just use your creativity and just check if you're not sure what anything is. The only other things you need are a large jar and a bottle of vinegar. Now I'm using a cider vinegar, so that's an apple-based vinegar, but a wine vinegar would work just as well. I wouldn't recommend a malt vinegar, you'll smell like a chip shop. All you need to do is stuff your ingredients into the jar. Once everything's into the jar, top it up with vinegar. And then put the lid on and push it in the sun. Now I'm going to shake this every time I pass it for probably about a week, and then I'm going to strain it out through a cloth, squeezing really hard. If it doesn't smell as strongly of herbs as I'd like it to at that point, I'll use the same vinegar and I'll change the herbs. When I've decided it smells strong enough, I'll bottle it up, and that will be lovely for use in the winter. A week or so later you can see that the vinegar's taken on a slightly pinky tone. That's mostly from the lavender. I'm going to strain it now and we'll see how it smells. I'm giving this one last strain through a fine tea strainer into a funnel. Can I do this one-handed? I think I'll put the camera down and do this with two hands. And there, it's done. Now, I decided not to give this a second run of herbs to the same vinegar, but you can do that if you want a more floral fragrance. To me, I like that cider vinegar edge. Now, to use this, I just take a mug of warm water up to the bathroom, put a glug of this in. Imagine you're making yourself a glass of cordial. And then at the end of your hair washing, just pour it through your hair. You don't need to rinse out. It's particularly good if you've been using soap-based shampoo bars. Really does help to cut through any last residue. So happy hedge bothering, and have a go at making yourself a herbal hair potion. I'm looking forward to using mine.